Alright guys, as you're doing your pre-trip, start from the front of the truck. You're going to check first to make sure there's no obstacles around the side of the truck. You're going to make sure there's no puddles of fluid. Your truck's not leaning from one side to the other. If you do have a lean, it's a sign that you have a suspension problem or a flat tire. When you approach the truck, you're going to be noticing a few things. You can start looking for the upper clearance lights. They need to be clean, working condition, not cracked, broken. A little bit closer to it. Checking the indicators, turn signals, headlights, working condition. Check your bumper. All your bolts are there, securely fastened, not broken or missing. Your tag, number plate, securely fastened, not broken or missing. Bolts. And if it is not a permanent tag, like this one is, make sure it's up to date. Check your grill. Make sure there's no obstructions, no debris, no little cat from down the road stuck inside it. Check to make sure it's securely fastened. Checking your windshields. Make sure they're clean, no visible cracks or damage. We're going to open the hood around the driver's side. Same with any. You're going to start back from the front. Come up to the front. There's no obstacles behind the grill. Going right up against the intercooler and the radiator. Check your hood springs and your hood tension cables. Your hood hinges, and start with your wires. No broken or bare wires. Come back, follow in a pattern. As you follow, keep your hand in front of your face, stuck out, reached, so you can see where you're at and keep track. Don't jump around, it'll make it even harder. Boots, clamps on your turbo for your intercooler system. Boots and clamps are securely fastened, not broken or missing. Go through, check your radiator support rod. It's in the same section. Securely fastened, it's not broken or damaged. On behind the pipe, you will see back here, you have a radiator line, which means you're going to have fluid. Make sure that it's not cracked, leaking, and no missing or broken clamps. Come across, you're going to check your air intake, your breather. Make sure your clamps are securely fastened, not broken or missing. Up top here, you look up, you'll see the windshield wiper motor has wires, has bolts. Make sure that the wires are not broken or bare, and it's securely fastened, not broken or missing. Solenoid, same concept. Wires, not broken or missing, broken or bare. Drop back down, come across. All of your pipes, hoses, wiring. No leaks, no cracks, no cuts. All the clamps on them, they're securely fastened, not broken or leaking. Come down in the middle here. Grab your fan. Check it. Make sure that there's no cracks in the blades, no broken blades, no missing blades. And you rotate it and check your fan clutch. Come into the fan clutch. On the inside, you're going to have your water pump. Some are gear driven, some are belt driven. This specific model is a belt driven. Make sure your belts are not frayed, broken, or worn, and have less than 3/4 inch play. Come back across, more hoses, more pipes, more wires, which means more clamps. Same concept every time. No clamps are broken, missing, or loose. The hoses are not cut or leaking. The wires are not broken, bared, or fraying. Come back in. You're going to run into more hoses. Your oil fill cap, securely fastened, not broken or missing. Your air pump, your air compressor, securely fastened, not broken or leaking. Power steering fluid reservoir, properly filled levels, securely fastened. Come across, you look down underneath, you'll find the oil filter. Kind Kind of hard to see at that angle. You got to look for it. Securely fastened, not broken or leaking. Drop down, you can grab your frame at this point. Your frame has no illegal cracks or welds. And all of the bolts that should be in place are in place. They're not broken or missing. Grab your steering rod. Your U-joints are securely fastened, not broken or missing, properly lubricated on the rod and the U-joints. Drops down to your gearbox. Your power steering fluid gearbox. Gearbox is securely fastened, no broken or missing bolts and no leaks. Drops down to your pitman arm. Pitman arm. Leaf spring hangers, your leaf springs, they're not scissoring, they're in proper alignment and not broken, no more than a quarter. Your leaf spring shackles, your shock absorber, securely fastened, not broken or missing bolts and not leaking. The bushings are in proper place. Now we're going to the brake system. Your air line to your brake pod. Brake pod goes to the push rod. Push rod, make sure that the pin going to the slack adjuster has the cotter key and the pin is in proper place and is securely fastened. Slack adjuster, which is down here. Slack adjuster goes into the S-cam. You cannot see it, it is internal. S-cam goes into the brake shoes or pads, depending on where you're from and what you call them. Brake pads can be no less than a 1/4 inch thickness. I don't know if you guys can get up in here and see these. This is your brake pad. Then it's going to go to your drum. Your drum cannot be cracked or damaged. Then your inner wheel. That is the inner rim for some people. The inner rim or inner wheel has no illegal cracks, welds, no hole-to-hole fractures, and no hole-to-hole cracks. Now you're going to go to your inner tire. Your inner tire has no bulges, cuts, gouges. Now you're going to go to the top. Top of the tire. No less than 4/32 of an inch of tread depth. Thump it. And check your valve stem. Hit it to make sure that it has proper inflation. Make sure your valve stem has its cap. You're going to check the outer wheel or outer tire for the same thing that you check for the inner tire. No cuts, gouges, or bulges. Check the outer wheel. No hole-to-hole cracks, no illegal cracks or welds throughout the rim. You're going to check your lug nuts, your spacers, and your studs. Lug nuts, spacer, and stud. Not broken, missing, or loose. If you see sign or shiny parts around it, it's a sign that it is loose and it needs to be tightened. Rust will not show like it's just a rusty thing. It'll look like it's trailing fluid down. Then your hub oiler. Securely fastened, not broken or missing any bolts, and is properly filled and not leaking. That is all to this side of the engine. To the other side. There are only a few subtle differences between that side of the engine and this side of the engine. You're still going to have your radiator support arms. Now we're going to drop down. You're going to have 2 more sets of belts, which are going to go to your alternator or generator, depending on what kind of vehicle you have. The alternator is securely fastened. The belts are within their legal amount of play, which is no more than 3/4. You have no broken or bare wires. Come back. You have your turbo. Turbo securely fastened, not broken or leaking. And it can leak because it has oil that gets pumped into it. So it keeps it lubricated. Go down to your exhaust pipe. Exhaust pipe is securely fastened, not broken, leaking. and the clamps are securely fastened, not broken or missing bolts. Your injector pump has fuel. Fuel means liquid. There are fuel lines coming off of it and going into it. There are no broken, missing, or leaking fuel lines or cracked, leaking fuel lines. Your primary fuel filter and your secondary fuel filter securely fastened, not broken or missing. There is no side engine oil leaks. This one has a little bit of a leak on it. I will report it to my mechanic when I get back. Windshield wiper fluid reservoir. Make sure it's at proper fill levels. It's not cracked, leaking, and in proper working order. You have more wires, mention it. You have more frame, mention it. You know, you start running into your steering components again. Leaf spring frame hangers, leaf spring shackles, leaf springs. The U-bolts, they're not loose, broken, or worn. Shock absorbers. Not broken, missing, loose, or worn, and no broken or missing bolts. And if they are, you need to report it to your mechanic immediately. Same to the air system again, and to the braking system. Air lines, brake pods, slack adjuster pin that goes to the push rod. Slack adjuster drops into the rod to the shaft of the internal S-cam. Internal S-cam to the brake shoes to the brake drum. Brake drum to the inner wheel to the outer inner tire to the top of the tire to the outer tire to the rim. Same thing we did on the previous. Every tire is going to be the same. Every axle is going to be the same. You're going to have brake components, suspension components. The only difference between the front tires and the back tires are the tread depth. You are not allowed mismatched sizes between the two sizes. You're not allowed bi-sply radial mix on them. Let's continue. See what I'm doing right now? I'm cleaning all the debris and trash off the steps. You don't want to drive it back. As you get to this point, look down underneath on the back section here. You will see your starter. Your starter has more wires. It's also got bolts that hold it on. No bolts, no holding the starter on, no starter, no going anywhere. So no broken or bare wires, no illegal cracks or welds in the next section of frame. Every section that you stand and check, every section of frame you stand and check. Every section of frame, every section of 3 foot to 4 foot of wire. There is going to be a wire, there's going to be hoses. So make sure you check for your wires are not being broken or bare. Make sure you check for your pipes not leaking. Look up underneath, you will also notice that you finally see your transmission or gearbox. Your gearbox. Make sure it's securely fastened, not broken or leaking. There is fluid in it, so you got to make sure that it keeps fluid in it. Now you're going to run into your air tanks. Air tanks are securely fastened, not broken or leaking. Air tank, air lines. Air lines, same thing. Now you got your battery box. Battery box hangers, securely fastened, no broken or missing bolts. Open this thing up, go inside. You're gonna make sure your batteries are not leaking, securely fastened down so they can't slide around. No corrosion on the battery terminals, and the battery terminals are tight. No broken or bare wires. You're also checking your steps to make sure they're securely fastened. At this point, you start checking your mirrors. Your door handles. That's checking your door handles and your hinges. Make sure everything's securely fastened and working as it properly should. At this point, you're going to start running in from the back of your gearbox. You're going to start running into your U-joints and your drive shaft. U-joints are properly lubricated, and drive shaft carrier bearings are properly attached and not damaged or broken. U-joints are lubricated properly. Fuel tank frame hangers, fuel tank straps, securely fastened, no broken or missing bolts, and the studs on the straps are not broken. Electrical wiring going to the float, the gauge on the fuel tank. Not broken or bare wires and arcing. You really don't want an arc on the side of a fuel tank. Another fuel line, not broken or leaking. No cuts or gouges in the pipe. You've got more electrical wiring coming off of the back of the cab, as you can visibly see here. And more air lines. You see the air lines, you see the electrical lines. No broken or bare wires, no cracked or leaking pipes. You see the mast, and now you see the pigtails and the air lines running back to the trailer. Red is your emergency, blue is your service. The pink looking one, and sometimes black and or green in a curly Q shape, just like these are, is an electrical line. No broken or bare wires, and the red and blues are not leaking air. Those are going to run to your glad hands, and your glad hands are securely fastened and not leaking.